Hey HTDA, and today we're playing some more Oxygen and Not Included, and I'm really happy about my base currently, but we have such a long way to go that I can't wait to dive further into this. Now, I think we have most of the food under production. I counted all the mealwood tiles, and we should have enough to produce all the food we need for our 10 people, so we don't really need to worry about food for the moment, as long as we keep to the 10 people we have. We have some additional food production in the form of our little ranch over here that so far hasn't really done anything other than multiply some of these hatchlings. There seem to be some eggs in here already, so yeah, working like intended. They are all domesticated, they have food, so yeah, all in all, that's starting to look really good. We have the germs under control mostly. Now, I'm a little bit worried about this slime lung. We get to that in a moment. I really like how these shine bugs are keeping the germs in my water under control. And yes, I know I should probably not be dumping the water from my overflow from the washroom over here into here, but it's kind of working. And speaking of that, I think I want to see if we can weaponize some of these critters a little bit more. Now, again, I'll get to that in a moment. We also need to do something about the 5 billion technologies that I've unlocked at this point that I haven't really used yet. And I'm just going to go through them and every now and then pick something, progress with that, and see where that gets us. Okay, first things first, let's deal with this slime lung over here. Now, if I understand correctly, then slime lung dies in oxygen. So I think if I do something like this and make sure that those things are powered, I probably need to remove these at some point. Actually, let me do that straight away because this is going to be a nightmare. I'm gonna put them over here so that they don't get in the way of any of the doors I will probably want to build here pretty soon as well. There's also a couple of things I needed to fix from the previous episode because I completely forgot to redesign my priorities. So for example, operator Steve over here was actually designated not to do any operating and he was forbidden to do so. So yeah, making sure I fix that is probably going to help out the efficiency of my base. Speaking about efficiency, this juicer over here apparently doesn't just need millwood or bristleberry or mushrooms. No, it needs all of the above, which I'm currently not producing, so this is never going to work until I actually do something about that, which honestly I am not inclined to do whatsoever. So I'm just going to unplug this. I'll just leave it in here because honestly this room, I'm not sure if it's doing anything. I actually don't think it is, to be honest. But yeah, speaking of rooms, I do want to build myself an additional room, and I'm gonna copy pretty much the entire setup we have over here. Am I? No, actually, let's do that up here. Oh man, it does feel very satisfying to mass produce stuff in this game once you get things rolling. Okie dokie, so here we have my little setup, and I moved a couple of these tiles down so I can move these 3 tiles down to make sure that all of this is still a room. Now, let me double check if I actually did that correctly. Yes, this is a 96 tile room for both of these. So yeah, we're just crowding in this space a little bit, but I like keeping my rooms on the same floor. I don't know, in the same width, I would say, rather than trying to build them out, because that just looks ugly and will get in the way of expanding later on. Okay, so as you noticed, I've done something slightly different here because I want to start brewing some of these shine bugs over here. Now, shine bugs, if I'm not mistaken, and I did look this up, but let me double check. Shine bugs eat bristleberry, or phosphorite. Now, I don't have either of these two, but I do have access to bristleberry. However, bristleberry comes from a bristle blossom, and if I'm not mistaken, yep, that requires some, where is it? Water. And I don't want to do that manually, so I am going to plant these things over here and copy those over here. And then, if I did my math correctly, and again, let me walk you through that because it might be useful if you're playing along. Bristleberry, sorry, over here. It's a little bit annoying sometimes to find the information that you want. So, bristle blossom, that's the one we want. This grows. Let's see. It only needs water to grow, so this is why we're building those in a hydroponic farm. But as you can see, it has a life cycle of 6 cycles, so it will take 6 cycles for this to actually bloom. And once it does, we will get 1600 calories out of that. Now, if you divide that math, that means we are getting about 266 calories per cycle on average. And if we look at how much we are going to need for the creatures, shine bugs, we looked that up. Shine bug, there we go. These need exactly 266 calories per cycle. So that means that one of these plants is going to feed one of these shine bugs. And that also means that if I set this to count 3, no, yeah. If we have more than 3 in here, we need to export whatever we have in surplus so that we are not starving the ones we are trying to have. Now, that also means that we want the bristle... Oh, I actually can't type that in yet because I haven't discovered it yet, I guess. That's a little bit annoying, but okay. We don't want to have all of them in. We just want the nymphs and the shine bugs to be in here. And then we are going to temporarily borrow you two. We are going to transport you over there. There's a smarter way of doing this, I know, but I am not that smart apparently. And the rest of this space we're just gonna use for more mealwood. Now, as you can see, I have so much mealwood seeds actually. We might want to find a use for that at some point. But for now, let's just start planting some more because you can never... Well, you can have too much, I think, but for the moment, I'm happy to do this and make sure we have a little bit of surplus food production that way as well. Oh, right. Something I just realized is that these plants are going to spit out some... where is it? Some germs somewhere during their life cycle. And that means that this deodorizer is going to be super important because it's going to make sure the air stays clean in here. At least that's the plan. Now, I also, therefore, need to do something about this door because I want to replace this door with one of these manual airlocks, just to make sure that the germs don't fly out and that always need to pass through the deodorizer. Now, I realized that this, I don't think actually filters out the germs, but it does filter out the polluted oxygen. So that should mean that the germs start dying as soon as they come in this general area. And of course, the shine bugs themselves are also going to help out with that. And I just realized these these shine bugs are going to fly out. So keeping them in this small area is actually not going to work, is it? Huh. I guess we can work... No, we can't work around that because otherwise it will close that up. So I guess we're not doing that after all. But what we can do in that case is actually move this down. Hold on, move that down. I think it'll actually work slightly better that way as well. So, you know, it is what it is. It's gonna be slightly annoying though, because if the eggs are going to be dropped in here, then, can I block them off somehow? I don't think I can, because otherwise that would mean blocking off the room itself. Let me know, comments. Is there a way I can block these guys off and still have this be a room? I'm actually not entirely sure. But anyway, we'll just have to deal with that manually, I suppose. Anyway, of course we do need to have some plumbing going, so let's do that like so. I don't think we need polluted water, I think we need like proper water, so we can split that off, because the juicer is not actually doing anything anyway. And then we can do that like that, and we're going to need one of those bridges, like so. Hold on, plumbing, I wasn't done yet. There we go, and there we go. Now, this is the wrong way around, isn't it? Yep. Wait a minute, I think we have a much simpler solution to this. The shinebugs only need 6 cells of space. Now, if I look at how large this is a total of 20 tiles. So that means that I can have 3 of them in here before they get overcrowded, because that's 18 tiles total. So as soon as number 4 is born, that should mean that if I set this correctly, so if we get above 4, then the next egg is going to be flopped out, which also means I can just close off this room. I can completely reutilize this. That also means that I can just move these back up so it doesn't look as ugly. All in all, it's going to be awesome. Hey, and would you look at that? We actually got a new delivery and I can just pick a shine nymph to go along with that. So that's perfect. Alright, I just realized these things actually also need light. Luckily, we have the solution right here because we're going to be growing creatures that produce light. So if I just keep a wild one in here, something like this, and make sure it's completely locked down, then we should be able to just have these plants growing non-stop and produce food for the other shine bugs. And the wild shine bug that is going to be in this room should just keep replacing itself, so That's like free illumination for these plants, right? That's how that should work. Oh, and another problem I just realized, I don't think we can actually use the automatic dispenser for this because I can't put the briar thingies in here. So we're just gonna have to remove this and put a normal critter feeder in here. But because we don't have as many critters in here, I think we should be fine in terms of the amount of extra chores that's going to add to the mix. Okay, so here was the layout I initially intended, but as you can see, every time the shinebug flies behind this tile over here, it blocks out the light for this and impedes the growth. Now, I could just try to figure out if I can move this slightly around and hopefully that will solve the problem, but I think there's a much easier solution. There we go, just move up everything by one tile and make sure that the deodorizer is right in front of where the germs are not supposed to go. And yeah, I think this should take care of most of that issue. Now let's see if we have the oxygen overflow. This is currently all oxygen, now that is great. And that also means that any spore bursts over here should hopefully get the germs killed very quickly, both by this radiation coming from this shinebug actually, as well as the deodorizer over here. So I kind of think that shinebugs and bristle blossoms go together very well in that regard. Okay, so let's see what's next on the list. Now, actually, I had a sick duplicant for a little while because of all this this slime stuff over here that actually seems to have disappeared. Hold on, where's the germs? Huh. That's interesting. This problem kind of solved itself. So I was about to say we should make a medical facility, but maybe not. We do have a germ problem in my water production over here, but that's where the new shinebugs are going to come in. Oh, hey, look at that. This is working like intended. We have our first eggs being delivered to the overflow system. And that means this farm is working like intended. And look, this one is working as intended as well because we have our first shinebug egg over here as well. So, yeah, I'm really happy with this progress. Now, the next thing I want to do is kind of refill this water area and get rid of this water area. So what I'm thinking to do is let's do this in the most lazy way possible. And let me think about that for a moment. Okay, so here's the plan, and this is going to be a disaster if it doesn't work like I'm hoping it will. But I'm going to let gravity do its job. So I'm going to temporarily place some tiles over here that are hopefully going to redirect any water that drops in here to this corner in here. And it also means I need to drop it down. I think I can just drop it all the way down the stairs over here. And that means I'm gonna need to build some tiles to make sure the water goes where it needs to go. I'm gonna have to be really careful on how I construct this, I think, because otherwise it's gonna be a disaster. It might be a disaster either way, but let's go and find out. Okay, so I'm really happy I did this extremely carefully, building from the bottom up, because as soon as I started to demolish this, the sand dropped down, and as you can see, well, basically what I planned to do organically is already happening. Now, this is dropping down here, and yep, this is working exactly like intended, letting gravity do the work for me. It's gonna take a while for this to drain, I think, but as you can see, it actually goes pretty fast. Now, I'm not entirely sure if all the water is going to fit in here. Maybe I should have done that path before I dropped it in there. But yeah, anyway, I think we'll be fine. Let's see what happens. Or, you know, I can just widen the gap and speed up the process. That was probably not the best thing to do because it can't flow in here that quickly. Well, it's honestly not that bad by the looks of it. I think we'll just have to deal with it as it is. So fluid dynamics in this game are interesting. As you can see, I kind of now have a permanent waterfall over here, mostly because it takes quite a while for this water to equalize out. Now, I think it's still working. As you can see, it's slowly going up, but it seems to use the flow dynamics when it comes into a horizontal direction, which is much slower than the falling dynamics, apparently. But yeah, as you can see, it is still working out like I hoped, just a lot slower than I would normally expect water to behave, but okay. As a side note, every time I now get a package up for a moment, I'm just gonna pick the, well, non-duplicant options, and I'm gonna try and collect as many different seeds and critters and things like that that I can't really get in a different way organically, other than just exploring the map, of course. But you know, we can get them for free out of the printing pod. We might as well snatch some of those up. Okay, there we go. As you can see, all the water has now been cleared out. I'm mopping up whatever was left, and we have a nicely filled basin again. Okay, something else I noticed is that the oxygen is actually running out over here. So since my shinebugs should be killing off the germs by themselves anyway, I think we can just have the germs that are starting to originate over here just clear out. And basically be handled by the shine bugs themselves. So as long as we make sure this is all going to go according to plan. I think he might be stuck in the door now, so let's make sure we move you out. Let's make you a higher priority, because for some reason the wrangling seems to be a very low priority in general. There we go. You are back where you're supposed to go. And then you, actually, hold on. You need to go there, because otherwise we won't have light for our plants. But yeah, there should now be oxygen flowing back in, because the deodorizer should be making the stuff, and at least the CO2 can drop down to the lower floors once more. Okay, and then one final change I want to make. I'm going to move this conveyor chute up, because I mostly want to make sure that my critters over here don't start eating my food. I'm not actually sure that they do that, but better safe than sorry, and we have this nice little open area here anyway. Something else that I've noticed is actually that this is not working like I wanted to. At least, well, it's working like I wanted to in terms of dropping the stuff on the floor, but every time it does that, my duplicants just swoop in and start clearing it back up again, which is kind of the opposite of what I wanted to do, because that just creates even more work. They are carrying it back and forth now. So I am just gonna go back to the critter feeder. Keep it simple is probably the best solution here after all. Alright, here we go. We have this little production facility for all the eggs. We have the shine bugs, the hatchlings. We also have some sage hatches on the way. This is gonna take a while for them to actually, you know, appear. But once they do, we kind of have them forever. We have the water relocation done. Yeah, all in all, I think this is starting to look really awesome. Now, let me take a look at the technology tree to figure out what I'm going to do next. So this is actually interesting. I've been looking through the technology tree, and even though I have about half of it completed at this point, none of it really jumps out of me as like, oh my god, we need to get this up and running now. There's probably only 2 exceptions to that. Well, and even those are kind of like a nice to have rather than a must have. So first of all, we have the material science research unlocked. For which we need the materials study terminal in order to use that. And the main reason I think we need to get this up and running sooner rather than later is the fact that, well, we need the yellow research for pretty much everything after this. So this is just a practical point. The other thing that seems very useful to me is, where is it? Where is it? Here. The comfy beds, because we need those in order to upgrade our resting areas, and plastic ladders and plastic tiles also seem very useful, considering we can use these to upgrade the efficiency of our base. The clothing refashionator, and it's kind of surprising that all of this is in the same technology, seems useful as well, because we can gear our duplicates with something that increases the decor. At least I think that's what that is used for. And a communal table seems like a very easy way to give our duplicates a morale boost as well. So this one technology seems to have a lot of useful stuff, while everything else is kind of like, yeah, it's useful, but not really something we need to strive for right away. All of that being said, I have a feeling that once I start to build some of this stuff, I will find out that I need new stuff in order to actually make that work. So let's see. The material study terminal needs what? It needs Radbolts, whatever those are. So I'm going to have to find that out. Some power. And I think that's about it. So yeah, this thing is also huge, apparently. Okay. Okay, let me figure out what Radbolts are. Okay, so it turns out that Radbolts are a form of radiation basically turned into something useful, as I understand it. We have 2 ways of making those, I think at least. There is the manual Radbolt generator. This refines radioactive ores to generate Radbolts. Or we can attract nearby radiation to generate Radbolts as well. Now, I'm not sure how effective this is going to be, but considering, you know, I have shine bugs to generate some radiation if we need it, or we have the uranium over here sitting there, and that's probably going to, you know, generate some of that as well. I figured, well, why not use a Radbolt generator and see where that takes us? Okay, so the Radbolt generator itself needs a massive amount of power, 480 watts. So I'm thinking that maybe we should stick to the manual version of this for the moment and just clear out this the uranium while we're at it, because it's kind of in the way of our expansion anyway. I assume we can dig this out. Yeah, we can. We have everything we need in order to do that. So yeah, I'm gonna dig this out, and yeah, we can kind of just nicely complete our floors while doing that, I suppose. There we go, and let's make sure we keep everything nice and tidy while we do that. There we go. And then we can also actually, while we're doing that, just make sure we have another bin. Actually, hold on. Let me see. We should build ourselves a material study terminal. Now, we can just put that... I think we can just put it over here, to be honest. I am not really using the kitchen anyway. And then once we dig this out, we can put a storage bin for the radioactive material over here. And how large is the radiation? I think it was over here, right? How large is the manual Radbolt generator? Oh, it's actually quite tiny. So we can just put that right over here. Let's put that like that. How do we get stuff from A to B? Huh, that's interesting. Can we funnel this somehow from A to B? Hold on. Oh, okay. So I think what I need to use are these Radbolt reflectors. And as you can see, there seems to be a directional output over here. So I think something like that. And then hopefully we can adjust the direction on these things. Let me just build this stuff and figure it out as we go along. Okay, so let's see. It does seem that we can do something with these directions. So hold on. This is going to send it up. Then this is going to send it down, and then it should be collected here, right? That's how that works, hopefully? I don't know. We also need to make sure this is actually powered, so let's do that like so. And yeah, there's no discovered recipes. I guess we first need to actually mine some of this uranium, maybe, before we can do that. I assume I can put uranium in here, because it is definitely something that produces radiation. So we are about to find that out. We have some uranium ore. Hello? Yeah, okay, there we go. So uranium ore to Radbolts and depleted uranium. There we go. Do we need to do this forever? I mean, maybe. Not entirely sure this is how we want to do that. We have 1,000 gram, we have 50 kilograms available. Okay, so this is actually, we have a fair amount of that stuff here. I'm just not sure if it's gonna go to waste somehow. This will allow us to store up to 100 Radbolt. So this is all set up, so I assume this is going to be fine. So if I just set this to 10, 50, let's just set it to 50. It is 1,000 gram each. So yeah, we have more than enough actually to keep this going. Now I am going to, hold on, set this, let's have some storage over here. Maybe actually let's put the storage in the corner. That's not where I wanted you to go. There we go. Let's put it in the corner. And then this is just going to be dedicated to storing the uranium kind of away from everything else. I'm not sure how radiation sensitive everything is going to be. I guess we can find that out. It seems to be okay. But yeah, let's just store it here to be safe. That also means I want to make sure it's not being stored in my storage area over here. So let's copy all of those settings. Yep, it is now no longer storing uranium. Let me double check if this is working like intended. Yeah, so the uranium ore is no longer allowed to go there. Yeah, it's awaiting Radbolts. Oh man, some of these machines are just awesome in the way they work. Well, if you're not gaining strength from this, I don't know what will gain you some strength. Meanwhile, let's make sure the uranium ore is actually going in here. And we can copy the settings for this building. There we go. So hopefully they should be collecting some of that and putting it in here. Oh man, this takes forever to produce. That's interesting. Well, you already have quite a bit of Radbolts available, so that means that if I now start collecting some of this new technology, then we should be fine. However, first things first, let's start researching our comfy beds. And in the meanwhile, while we're doing that, let's do some exploring, because I decided not to be too intimidated by the heat over here. Maybe that's some famous lost words. But in general, I just want to start exploring the map a little bit. Now, the reason I turned on the temperature view over here is because it allows me to very easily detect neutronium. And if I remember correctly, that is where geysers and basically infinite resource production is going to be. So we have one over here, we have one over here, which is very inconveniently right in the path of my secondary tunnel. We also have one over here actually, which is interesting because that's just directly up from where I am. all in all, there seems to be some cold biomes down here as well, which is interesting in and of itself. So, long story short, I want to uncover both of these as well as this one, and because this one is the closest, let's just dig up right there. And that also allows me to pick up some of these sweetles over here, which I'm gonna put to use as well. Okay, while we're digging this out, let's me check what sweetles actually are. So, let's go to the thingy. Sweetles are non-hostile critters that excrete large amounts of sucrose. Okay, not sure what we're going to do with that, but they are closely related to the grub grub, whatever that is, and they exhibit similar, albeit less effective, farming behaviors. Okay, what do they eat? Oh, just sulfur. And they spit out sucrose. Okay. These are little sugar making machines, I suppose. So what's a grub grub then? Grub grubs form symbiotic relationships with plants, especially grub fruit plants, and instinctively tend to them. Ah, okay. Um, hmm. Well, that means that I probably want one of you to sit in, I don't know, over here with my bristle blossoms. Not sure if you're also going to be tending to those, but only one way to find out. Might as well put you to use. Also, what are you doing over here? Okay, I think one of my... There's some eggshells over here. I think my shine bugs, when they escaped while I was building this, probably dropped down a few eggs over here. This one is elderly as well. Starving! Oh, we only need to feed it once every 10 cycles. Well, the bristle blossoms that we put down are about to give their first fruit, so I think then that should be just fine. Let me make sure, by the way, that we don't allow the berries in here. Can I forbid people to eat certain fruits? I'm not entirely sure, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this feeder to the highest priority, because this is where the berries are going to go. And hopefully they will bring the berries to this feeder before they bring them anywhere else. We're also about to dig up bliss bursts. I'm not sure what those are, but let's find out. A succulent in the genus Haworthia is a hardy plant well suited for beginner gardeners. That sounds really good. They require little in the way of upkeep, to the point that most common cause of death for bliss bursts is overwatering from overeager cares. That sounds like every single plant I've ever owned. Growth requirements, just any form. Oh, basically they can grow anywhere. Okay, oh, okay, they need nothing basically. They just need some sort of oxygen or carbon dioxide even. Oh, okay. They release an explosion of decor in otherwise dull environments. Okay, so this is just a decorative plant. Well, a little less exciting than what I was hoping for initially, but I'll take it. On a different note, I just researched the home luxury, so we can now make comfy beds, at least hopefully. That means I'm also going to go for another technology. Now, most of this stuff, again, doesn't seem to be something we really need right now, but then I saw renewable energy. And if you've seen me play any of the other dozens of factory and automation games I've had in this channel, you will know I love myself some renewable energy, especially solar panels make me really excited. Is this going to be viable to use in to power my entire base? I don't know, but I intend to find out. Meanwhile, let's see. In order to make comfy beds, we will need some plastics. And by the looks of it, in order to make plastic, we're going to need petroleum, resin, or nectar, or glossy Dracos. As well as a polymer press. Now, I don't have any of these resources yet, I think. So let me double check. Well, I think we might be able to make some resin somehow. Let me check. So we don't care what it transitions to. We do kind of care what it transitions from, but that's just other forms of resin. We can turn plant husks. Oh, this is applications, never mind. What is it produced by? Oh, okay. We can crack some eggs and we can get some resin as a side result from that. So this doesn't feel like the way to mass produce this, because this is going to produce, what is it, 5 kilograms per egg. And then let's go back to plastic. How much did we need? Hold on, hold on. Hello, hello. Why are you not folding in? Anyway, We need 500 kilograms. Oh, this is per cycle, so we don't necessarily need that much. But we do need, I think, a few hundred for one bed. So, yeah, it's about half of that. So I don't think the eggs are going to be the prime producers of plastic just yet. So we're going to need to find some, I guess, petroleum. So we're back to exploring the map and see what we find. Well, my Shinebug farm over here isn't quite working like intended just yet, but, well, one of the eggs that we collected is already hatching, so let's just make sure that it gets relocated there as quickly as possible. I also relocated the one that was flying around over here, so we're back to 2, as well as 1 egg that is going to hatch in a couple of cycles. So, yeah, and of course, I think they just died from starvation. But hopefully with these plants up and running, that should take care of that problem. Let's also make sure we extend our pole over here to speed things up. And we definitely don't want that to be there. So that should take care of things. What we can actually do is something like this. And then just dig this out to make sure we have some access to that. But yeah, we also dug out some coal along the way, which is nice. We also have depleted uranium. What are we going to do with that? We can turn that into liquid uranium, apparently. Okay. Applications. You can feed it to a plug slug, and then it's going to produce hydrogen. Okay. And that's the only thing we can do with that? Huh. Okay. That sounds a little bit unfortunate. Now, let's look at the radiation over here. Not sure why this is blinking, but I think this is working like intended. We are currently storing 87 Radbolts. How are we storing that much? Are you producing more than one? Hold on. I think we can set this to 0 for a moment, because we don't want this to overflow. How much do you need per production cycle? Hold on. Oh, 10 units per research point. Okay, so this is only 8 research points. But yeah, I am going to slow this down a little bit just to make sure that we're not overproducing and wasting the Radbolts. Oh, okay, well, this is an unexpected problem. If I put these two together, they are crowded, and that also means, apparently, that this thing stops producing light. Wasn't expecting that, so let's relocate you, because you don't really need to be there. Let's just join you in with your friend, I suppose. Let's make sure we hurry up with that, because I don't want my plants to die. I think they might have already died, not entirely sure. No, I think they actually bloomed because we produced some seeds. But still, yeah, wasn't expecting that to happen. I didn't know the light production here was associated with their mood. That's a new problem. But anyway, are these guys doing anything? I don't know how to tell. I mean, maybe? Let me know in the comments, is there a way to figure out if these guys are actually doing anything with these plants? Because if there is, I don't know how to tell for the moment. And also, honestly, the behavior, I'm just assuming, because it says with the grub that they tend to plants. Although it does specify the grub fruit plants, but I'm not sure if this holds for all the plants either. It's less than clear, let's put it like that. And while I'm trying to figure that one out, let's start digging into this direction. Let's be careful about it, because we don't know actually what's hiding up there. Yeah, let's just place down some platforms like this, I guess. Just so we can reach this and find out what is actually hiding up this neutronium. Might actually be on the downside as the bottom side as well, but I don't think it is, because then we probably would have seen it sticking out here. Not entirely sure how that works. Oh wait, there are sparkling plants over here. Yeah, these are pollinated by a sweetle. What does that do? Growth speed plus 5%. Oh, that's actually kind of nice. I mean, it's not gonna make or break the game for me, but it does mean that we can grow some more of these sweetles, for which I think we needed sulfur, right? Yeah, sulfur. Or sucrose, but that's just for the grubs. Hold on. Yeah, so if we can find some sulfur, we can just start ranching these guys and have all our plants grow faster. I mean, just the wild ones will do, honestly. I'm also wondering, the ones that I just put in here, they are wild. Yeah, so any new creatures that we grow over here are going to be wild creatures. so we don't have to care about it. We can actually fill our entire base with creatures if we wanted to, because wild creatures don't seem to eat anything, don't seem to require anything. They replace themselves with an egg eventually. So I don't think there's a downside of just growing as many creatures as we can and just putting them to use wherever they might be useful. So for example, the shine bugs that we can use to clear out germs, the Sweetles to farm. I'm not sure what hatchlings actually do in the wild, probably not that much. But they look nice. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they add something to the decor, right? Where's decor? I keep forgetting. Decor, 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 materials, plumbing, ventilation, decor. Yeah, as you can see, the decor in this room is very low. Why is it that low? I mean, there's hatches enough, so that's not a problem. Oh, because of all the other stuff in the room. But anyway, yeah, so in theory, we could also just use hatches to spruce up the place a little bit. Okay, so apparently we found an aluminum volcano, which is going to spit out molten aluminum. What the bleep am I going to do with that? Also, this is going to be extremely hot. So I have a feeling we might want to keep this covered for the moment to make sure it's not active. It's molten aluminum. What am I gonna? Oh, it's gonna produce aluminum. That makes sense. I have no idea what we're going to use this for. So for the moment, I'll just leave that alone and focus a little bit on this side, because what I want to do is drop down this stuff. Probably something like this. Let's make a little bit of a ladder in the middle here as well. Like so. Let's drop all the polluted water down in here so we can start digging this entire thing out. We're going to need a lot of space for all of... Oh, that's not what I want to do. Hold on. We're going to need a lot of space for all this polluted water, but that's okay. We have already taken that into account. Let's see, how wide was this? This was 24 tiles, so if we want to do this the same way... Yeah, so we actually want to dig this out even further. I'm gonna try and fill this out as well, just to make sure we even out the bottom over here. We push that up so it goes right and nicely into where we want it to go. Something like this. The fact that like over half of my duplicates just rush out to start building and digging whenever I decide that I want to expand is a good sign that we have plenty of chore capacity, I guess, in my base, so we don't need to worry about getting in more duplicates that way. Do I specifically need spicy tofu? I guess not, but you know, we might as well just get it. Oh, and would you look at that, we have our first surplus nymph board, so shine bug, I should say, board. So I'm gonna move that back here to the water supply so we can start decontaminating that. Strangely enough, it seems that now my game starts to complain that my base is not breathable enough, which is, I think, mostly because I have so much additional space opened up now that is probably part of the problem. Now, I might also want to remove this door, actually, now I think of it. Mostly because that will allow the oxygen to flow through. But all in all, there seems to be plenty of oxygen around my base. I'm not sure why the game is complaining, but that's probably just a pressure thing. That said, what I could do is just add in a couple of these oxygen thingies. And I'm thinking that maybe I should put a couple of them down here. The reason I'm thinking that is that might kind of push the airflow through a little bit more. I'm not entirely sure if that works like I want it to, but there's only one way to find out. Let's see, I just earned a colony achievement. I wonder what it is. Have a duplicate eat any cooked meal prepared at an... Oh, well, that took long enough. It seems that we barbecued something that I didn't notice, because apparently one of my creatures died, and, well, it has been happening quite a few times now by cycle 60. So, yeah, barbecue working like intended. Alright, our polluted oxygen basin is almost up and running, and we are about to drop in a whole bunch of this water. Or once going twice. Yep, in there. Yeah, I have to admit, this is super funny and super satisfying to see this as well. We're going to dig out this water as well, and then this and this and this. All in all, this should make for a nice little basin over there. Okay, well that is this shaft built out, and that means it's now time to start exploring what is hiding over here in the corner, because I honestly don't remember, but if this is sulfur, then I might be able to set up a farm for these Sweetles. Oh, okay, so this is a chlorine gas vent that is going to produce, well, chlorine. What I can do with that, I am not entirely sure. I keep finding stuff that I don't know what to do with. Um, Applications. Well, chlorine gas is going to transform into salt. I use sand to it, for which I need a Dasha salt line. I don't know what that is. We have a couple of other things we can use it for. The rusty oxidizer is going to produce it. It's a natural germ-killing element in the gaseous state. Uh, okay, I'm sure it's going to be useful at some point. But I might need to go and find, let's see, let's get the temperature overlay again. There was another one around here. So we might need to start digging this out to figure out if that might actually be useful. Because what I'm hoping to find is pretty much anything that is not aluminum, chlorine, but something like water, for example, might have been nice. I'm assuming that we have vents like that as well around as well. But maybe not. I don't know. Let's find out. On a different note, because this is apparently very hot, I figured, well, maybe we need to insulate that a little bit. And it turns out that I can make drywall out of just sandstone, and that seems to be a pretty effective way of keeping things cool. So, I don't know, let's build some of that drywall over here as well. That's my wrangle tool. That's not what I wanted to do. Hold on. There we go. Let's just insulate this back up until we actually need it. That does raise the question, what do we want to do with this shaft? Because this thing is kind of in the way where I originally intended my shaft to be. I don't know. But maybe to keep it simple for now, we can just dig out this floor over here. And then construct the floor that I built in here to keep the water contained. As you can see, we have a very nice basin of polluted water. So if we want to have some additional water, which we currently are not lacking in, but what we can do is just make water sieve and put down the water in here. How are we doing in germs? Yeah, this little shinebug over here is doing a fairly decent job at keeping the germs under control. We want to add in some more of those, but in order to do that, we're actually going to need some more shinebugs. Do we have any of them over here yet? Doesn't look like it, just a couple of hatch eggs, but yeah, I mean, everything is working like intended. We have 3 of them up here, we have a shinebug up here as well, and then we have 1 over here, so we are actually expanding our shinebug population. What can we add to the mix? Ooh, we can get some Draco eggs. It's gonna take me a minute to, you know, breed those, but I don't know. Those might be useful. We also have some Dracos on the map. I think these are Dracos, right? I might have to look into what to do with those in a second, but before we do that, let me dig my way to this, whatever geyser or volcano or whatever this is going to be is hiding over here. If you're wondering why all of these sage hatch eggs are now being exported, is that because it was getting cramped in here, but because I didn't have this filter set for sage hatch eggs, these guys were actually no longer laying eggs. So obviously I don't want that to happen. We can replace some of these dudes with sage hatches once we get around to, you know, actually incubating these things. But yeah, just to make sure we keep producing eggs. And you can see we are actually producing quite a few eggs, not that I need the food. There is also eggshells all over the floor here that we can turn into something more useful at some point as well. But yeah, all in all, this is working very much like intended. Now, what I actually wanted to tell you about is the Dracos, because it turns out that Dracos can feed on the growth of plants, but that includes mealwood plants. Now, they need 25% growth per cycle in order to feed and turn some phosphorite out of that. But, as it turns out, one mealwood plant, assuming I'm actually actively cultivating them, is going to grow with 33% growth per cycle because it takes 3 days to grow that thing. So 1 plant per Draco is going to be enough, assuming that I keep farming them, to sustain a Draco. So that's a very easy way to get some phosphorite production going. That's pretty much just free phosphorite. And even though I don't really have a specific use for phosphorite at the moment, shinebugs also eat that stuff. So, I mean, it's at least free production that I can put to use already. Especially if you take into consideration that Dracos are going to spit out a lot more phosphorite per cycle than the Shinebugs are ever going to go and consume. Just a single Draco, if this is actually true, can support, I think it's like a whole farm of these things to begin with. It's probably not the main reason, the main thing you want to use phosphorite for, but I mean, it's a lot more efficient than trying to rely on these bristle blossoms that take up a lot of water. So, yeah, I think we're going to have to make a Draco farm. And you know, since we are making all of our farms up here anyway, might as well go and extend this. And since we already cleared out the water, we don't need to be afraid of that anymore. We are going to put in a nice little wall over here. At some point, I definitely want to make sure the wall is up here as well. So while we're at it, might as well make sure it's nice and clean and that we are starting to prepare this for the future as well. That means I can clear out this. There's a whole bunch of stuff hidden in here as well, some raw resources as well. So, you know, might as well grab those while we're at it. So, you know, since I just got all those Draco eggs anyway, we might as well put them to use. And if needed, we can also grab the Draco from over here. And I think there was a couple of them over here as well, at least one. Oh, there's an egg here as well. So we have plenty of Dracos to work with, actually. Now, the Draco farm is going to look a little bit different, I think, than what we've done previously. Although, honestly, not that different, because we have already been using these farm tiles in here, just not to actually feed our stuff. But since Dracos can feed off the growth of mealwood, all we need to do, as far as I understand, is just grow mealwood in here, and they will just feed off that. And that means we don't actually need a critter feeder in here. That's going to be awesome. That does mean we are going to need to deconstruct this whole bunch. And because they are going to roam around a bit more freely... Actually, hold on. Let me see. Dracos. Draco. How much space do you need? 12. So that's similar to the hatches, so we can fit in 8. So actually, we don't necessarily need to go all this way. We need 8 plants, if I've done my math correctly before. So hold on. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this thing will reach us how far? Almost far enough, so we can have 7 plants in here total if I wanted to reach the entire room. Honestly, that might be good enough. So if we do that, then we don't actually need to start redesigning this entire room. So hold on with that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we will cancel this. This can just stay as it is. And we will make ourselves a nice little block over here. And then this should be enough to feed 7 Dracos. All we need to do is make sure we never have more than 7 in here. Although we have a little bit of an overflow, because I think 7 plants should actually be able to feed 8 Dracos. So yeah, let's just do that. Oh, hold on, I think I measured this wrong, but I'll move the door a little bit to the left compared to where I originally planned it. Now, I also think that even though that allows me to have only 6 of these farm tiles in the range of this sweeper, I can actually do this slightly different, because I don't need these drop-off points. They literally serve no function, and it kind of holds for these things as well, because I am letting the eggs just hatch naturally in here whenever I lose some of the creatures that were in here originally. Which might not necessarily be the most efficient way to replenish the population of one of these areas, but it works. And I can always grab a couple of them that are just out in the wild over here. There's probably a more efficient way to grow these creatures than just letting these eggs hatch naturally, but you know, it's working, so I don't really see the problem with that. Which also means that I can take this space and move the grooming station up a little bit, and then have that 7th farm tile that we need. All right, there we go. Apparently there is some sand in here. But we have our first Draco in here. Now these guys become really old. They can get up to 150 cycles old, so that's much older than pretty much everything else we have currently. Apparently they can also walk and waltz, so it's a good thing we have them completely enclosed. It also means that this is not really going to work, so not sure if I want to take this out or not. Maybe. We'll have to watch for eggs, I guess, in here. But we have already a couple of these eggs in here to begin with. Is this... Now I'm actually starting to wonder if I want to keep this in here or not. Well, let's just take it out. I could increase the amount of sweepers in here, nonetheless. It kind of goes back to what I was saying before, what I didn't want to do, but you know, might as well do this because that means this is fully automated, and that is kind of nice to have. I feel at least. It also means I need to increase the automation link up here a little bit, because all of these will need to start working as soon as we exceed the ratio. But at the same time, that also means I might as well do this, because, well, I don't know, more meal wood is good, I suppose. Okay, there we go. This is all set up, and honestly, the expansion of this entire thing is probably worth it, and I could honestly also kind of do that over here if I wanted to, because these things are only going to use power whenever there's actually too many eggs in here, which won't happen too often. Speaking of eggs, we have a nice little set of eggs starting to form over here. A couple of shinebug eggs now as well. Now these have all been grown and are getting actually fed. And now we are also turning this Draco into a tame version. This should start producing some of that phosphorite that we can then also put in here, I suppose. So we should never run out of food. Keeping that in mind, I'm actually sort of half inclined that once we have the Draco farm up and running, to just expand this farm for the shinebugs as well, just to keep as many shinebugs as we can and keep them laying eggs and stuff like that. I mean, the eggs are going to be useful for several reasons, food being one of them, the actual creatures being the second. And I have to correct something I said earlier, because I noticed that this guy over here was not looking too happy. I thought the tame ones were going to turn into wild versions again after a little while, but apparently that's not the case. And this guy is slowly dying because he's not finding any food. Which means that, yeah, you can't actually just completely fill up your base with creatures. Now, that also means that, by accident, me putting the wild shinebug over here in this corner is actually a super smart thing. Unintentionally smart, to be frank. Because this is just going to keep replacing itself and keep lighting these plants without me having to manually replace that. So if I find any other shinebugs on the map, I'm not sure if there are any. Well, I don't see any of them, but if I find any of them, I'm gonna put them over here just to make sure we keep the germs under control. I'm also just gonna feed the ones that will spawn over here, put them over here to, you know, take the germs in control. As you can see, it's working quite nicely. But, yeah, not entirely working like I expected it to. And look at that, we have our first one up and running. Is it gonna die? Probably. Is that gonna mean we get to barbecue some stuff? Yes, so definitely. I've done some more exploring, and the last of those geysers that I was looking for is apparently another volcano. This one is going to spew out magma. So I was kind of hoping to get some more basic stuff initially, but okay, well, we're just gonna have to deal with that and hopefully find some more stuff. That also means that I probably want to do a lot more exploring, but that will have to wait because this episode is turning into a pretty long one already. Now, just to recap, we made quite a few more of these ranching facilities, and I'm super happy about how these are turning out. We've also upgraded the science facility over there, and we've done quite a bit of exploring already, just not with too much results yet. But it is what it is. We have germs still fully under control by the looks of it. Why are you? You apparently walked through something somewhere along the way. Probably over here, because the germs are definitely not under control here. But yeah, that's also kind of not in my base, so that's not really a problem. And when it comes to oxygen, look at that. We have everything quite nicely under control. We have a lot of our little dudes idle, so we have a lot more work power to work with that we can utilize to do whatever we want, apparently. And I think what we want to do is a lot more exploring, like I just said, because we're going to need more resource. I need to find oil somewhere. I don't know in what direction that's supposed to go. I don't think we have any of that on the map yet. We have some snow. No. So I'm pretty much just going to go explore. But once again, that will be in the next episode. If you are still here, by all means, let me know in the comments what you want to see next, where I should be going next. I'm just making this up as I go along. But on top of that, you are awesome. And I do hope to catch you in the next one.